The creepy Ring doorbell camera footage to follow will send shivers down your spine. These home invasions and other scary situations captured with Ring doorbell footage are going to keep you up tonight. On October the 2nd, 2022, at 5 in the morning, doorbell camera footage caught this clip. Here, 3 men are standing in the porch of an unsuspecting homeowner. If you pay attention, you can notice that they have weapons and also are wearing masks that pay homage to the movie The Purge. One of them actually sees the Ring device, but this doesn't deter the group. Instead of fleeing, the perpetrator just puts his hand over the doorbell camera. After he does it, for a while, all you see is his glove. However, for a second, he removes his hand, and the Ring footage reveals all 3 men up close. The men are seen outside, crouching low, and some leaned up against the wall of the house. They make half-hearted attempts not to be seen by anyone inside. At this point, the homeowner finally wakes up after receiving countless notifications on his phone. He decides to open the app and check the device, but all he's able to see is the man's hand covering the camera. Since he's still not seen the previous footage, he was unaware of how dire the situation outside his house had become. He tries to identify the intruders on the speaker from his phone.
Hello? 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 Hello?
Of course, the men refuse to identify themselves, and after, the homeowner calls the police. By the time the police arrive, the men have all vanished. Upon seeing this footage, many think the group of men were trying to lure the inhabitants through the front door so they could rob those living inside. But if that were the case, wouldn't they have responded and continued the earlier conversation and tried to convince the man inside to come to the door? With the masks and the gloves, it is far more likely that they were trying to pick the lock of the house, knowing full well that they were being recorded by doorbell camera. With criminals acting this brazen, there's no telling what they would have done once they got inside. This woman is in trouble. She had just innocently gotten home from taking her dog for a walk. The doorbell camera shows her attempting to take the dog's leash off when she glances to her left and shockingly sees a strange man just a few feet away from her. She immediately grabs the dog and tries to scramble inside the house. The man appears in the door cam footage and walks right up to the house. By the time he tries to turn the handle, the woman inside had narrowly locked the door. Knowing that his job had just gotten tougher, the man starts putting on gloves. The woman later testified that she also noticed that he was carrying zip ties. He peers into the house and then tries time and again to open the door and enter the house by other means over the course of the next few minutes. He's calling attention to himself, and eventually the neighbors notice. Soon one of them comes outside and approaches the house to see what's going on. To this, the man pretends to be doing yard work by grabbing a nearby hose, satisfying the neighbor's curiosity. Once the neighbor leaves, the man walks out of the range of the door cam in pursuit of the woman inside. He tries to get in through the back door. When he tries to force his way in through the back door, the woman responds not only by locking the door, but going into an interior room of her house and locking that door as well as she calls the police. As she waits for them to arrive, doorbell cam footage shows him attempting to break into every door and even the windows of the house. On one of the windows in the back of the house, the man goes so far as to break off the screen. Ultimately, he was unsuccessful, but unlike the intruders from the last clip, this man is so mentally deranged that he could care less about the light of day, the help of others, wearing a mask, or even hiding himself from his future victim, which makes him by himself even more scarier than those 3 men combined. By the time the police arrived, the man had disappeared, and there wasn't much that they could do. This video was placed on TikTok shortly after the incident in hopes that the man could be identified. No one was able to recognize him. Canyon County, California. Doorbell cam footage shows a family complete with children quickly packing their bags. Moments earlier, an evacuation notice was received in response to the raging California wildfires in the area. Smoke and fire take over the background of the ring cam footage, and the flames are only getting closer. Without knowing how much time they have, the family just tries to pack as much as they can as quickly as possible. Soon their neighbor runs over and lets them know that they should have packed lighter. The fire is advancing through the neighborhood quickly. The family is able to evacuate the neighborhood in the end and spend a few nights in a nearby hotel where things are safe. A few days later, when they were able to go back home to assess the damages, they find that their house is completely untouched. Many of their neighbors had lost everything, their homes being completely destroyed in the raging fires. JoJo and her son Daniel have finally arrived home after a late night running around town. The contents of this video is so shocking that it was uploaded to TikTok just a day later. The lesson to be learned with this clip is to pay attention to your surroundings. After arriving at their home, the two take some time to get inside, and nearly as soon as they close the door, there he is. A man can be seen approaching their house out of the darkness. He immediately tries to get in the front door. JoJo and Daniel start having an argument, the typical family stuff. JoJo wants him to get a shower before bed, but Daniel doesn't want to. But through the commotion of their squabble, you still can hear the sound of someone trying to jar the front door loose, and only seconds after it had been closed. JoJo sees the man and orders him to leave. She looks outside. The man hears her. He takes one step back, and instead of leaving, just stares into the ring cam with a blank expression. No one knows exactly where the man came from. Some believe he was following the mother and son for much of the night, in effect, stalking them. Others think that he was camped out at their home, waiting for the two to get back to start acting on his evil intentions. Regardless, it is impossible to know what he was going to do if he could have gotten inside that house.
Who is that? Get out of here! Get out of here! There's a guy outside, look!
JoJo called the police and acted extremely bravely. By the time the police arrived, the only thing left behind was this door cam footage, leaving us all to wonder what the intruder would have done next if allowed inside. The following clips were posted on the internet in 2021. The woman who owned the house decided to set up a few ring cameras to stand guard of her house in June of that same year. Shortly after having these cameras set up, the woman got spammed with ring notifications, letting her know that there was someone setting off the motion detection on both devices. She reviewed the footage, and this is what she saw. A strange man is walking around the outside of her house. What is of note is how completely at ease he seems wandering around her house. This is something that she picked up on, and it made her feel like he had been there many times before. He seems to even know the layout of her house. It's like he knew exactly what each room was for and where everyone in the family slept. He's seen walking up to windows and looking into them, including her own bedroom. She alerted the local police department and reported the incident. When the cops arrived, the man was gone, and the only thing left behind was this door cam footage. All they did was give her the advice to secure her home. In hopes to not entice the man to come back, they instructed her to keep her home windows, curtains, and blinds shut as much as possible. Although the woman took those steps, she was confident that the man would come back, so she took it a step further. She set up a trap in the backyard by hanging a string between two trees. The goal was that since he seemed to like to come to the house at night, he wouldn't see the trap and would trip the string. That string would set off alarms and would make a lot of noise. That, in turn, would alert her to his presence and hopefully deter the man from staying so close to her house. Exactly 1 week later, at 3 a.m, she heard the alarm. Someone had tripped over the string. The man was back. The frightened woman grabbed her phone immediately and checked the live camera feed. She saw him immediately, the same man from before. She alerted her daughter, and the two of them decided to confront the man. The mom went to the window and started banging on the window with the curtains open, making a lot of noise while the daughter called the police. The commotion scared the man off, and by the time the authorities arrived, the man was gone. The woman said that this peeping Tom robbed them from the peace they once enjoyed at that house. They couldn't stand the constant feelings of insecurity at this residence and eventually ended up moving to a new house. The police never identified the man, and the two women believe that he was never apprehended. This clip is crazy. Instead of an intruder lurking outside their home, this video from Arlington, Texas shows a sudden explosion. The door cam footage was shot at 2 a.m. It was New Year's Eve that night, and suddenly, out of nowhere, a giant explosion goes off at a house just a few doors down the street. You might think that it was a fireworks accident or something along those lines from the neighbors ringing in the new year, but you would be wrong. The root cause was identified as a gas appliance that wasn't properly shut off. At the time of the explosion, the neighbors weren't even home. Surely, they were grateful that they were out partying instead of spontaneously combusting inside of their own home. No one was injured from this extensive explosion. The house was totally destroyed, as you can see. Debris from the event scattered in the air and hit nearby homes and buildings. Neighbors in the apartment buildings down the road had their windows blown out in the explosion. Many car alarms went off, and vehicles in the street were affected as well. The local authorities got over a dozen calls that night from people in the neighborhood. Before we get to our last clip, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the video and want to see more like this one. You're not going to believe this footage. Look at the reflection off of the school bus in the background. Those faint lights illuminate the approach of an insane man who walks up to this house at 3 a.m. This video was from TikTok, uploaded in September 2022. This deranged man walks directly up to the house and positions himself on the front porch. When his face is finally clearly seen on the door camera, you can see that the person is wearing a mask with what appears to be a mustache. The man at home wakes up from his sleep to a barrage of ring notifications on his device. He can see the man trying to get in his house and staring inside the windows. Unlike most homeowners, though, this man's first instinct is fight, not flight. Instead of calling the police, he throws on a robe and grabs a weapon. He runs out of the house in pursuit of the criminal, looking to do some damage. Before long, the adrenaline of the situation wears off, and the man who was outside was nowhere to be found. The homeowner moved on to Plan B and called the police. The intruder was never captured or identified. The mask did its job, and the homeowner never gave any further updates regarding this situation. The homeowners run out of the house and they jump in the car, but they aren't safe there either. Check out these scary videos caught on their dash cams.